Lithium batteries, a technological miracle or an environmental disaster? That single question hovers like a shadow over the story of the 21st century. For many, lithium batteries are nothing short of a modern miracle. Small, light, and powerful cells that store the energy to run our laptops, smartphones, and electric vehicles. They are the quiet pulse inside every pocket, every car, every solar panel storage unit that promises freedom from fossil fuels. They are the very engines of what is marketed as a green revolution. Without them, our hyper-connected digital lives would collapse within hours. Yet for others, lithium batteries are symbols of a looming environmental disaster. Mining the element that powers them drains scarce water in fragile ecosystems, poisons rivers, displaces indigenous communities, and scars landscapes. Discarded batteries, when not properly recycled, leak toxic chemicals into soil and groundwater. The carbon footprint of their production raises questions about whether they are as clean as the industries that champion them would have us believe. The paradox is stark. The same invention that offers humanity a pathway away from oil dependency also chains us to new forms of extraction and exploitation. Are lithium batteries truly the saviors of civilization, or are they the harbingers of a new kind of ecological collapse? This chapter sets the stage for an inquiry that spans science, history, economics, ethics, and human destiny itself. To understand whether lithium batteries are a miracle or a disaster, we must retrace their origins, follow their development, and weigh their costs against their promises. Walk into any room today, and you will find lithium batteries everywhere. The phone charging on the nightstand, the laptop glowing on a desk, the earbuds tucked in a pocket, the smartwatch on a wrist, all draw life from rechargeable lithium cells. An electric car parked outside carries hundreds of kilograms of lithium inside its sleek design. On distant mountaintops and in deserts, renewable energy farms channel solar and wind power into giant lithium battery storage facilities, holding energy for when the sun sets or the wind calms. The rise of lithium batteries has become synonymous with modern progress. Just as coal powered the 19th century and oil defined the 20th, lithium batteries are shaping the 21st. Governments build policies around them, corporations race to control their supply, and nations perceive them as critical resources of geopolitical strategy. In many ways, the battery age has already begun. But beneath the sleek marketing of electric cars and sustainable living lies a deeper story, one of scientific triumphs shadowed by environmental compromises. To answer our opening question, we must peel back layers of history and look closely at the human stories embedded in this technology. The story of lithium batteries does not begin in a factory or a laboratory in the 21st century. It begins much earlier, in the early 19th century, when the element lithium itself was first isolated. Scientists like Johann August Arvidsson discovered lithium in 1817, naming it after the Greek word lithos, stone, because it was found in minerals rather than in plants or animals. From the very beginning, lithium was an oddity. Unlike heavier metals, it was extremely light. It reacted violently with water. It had strange chemical properties that made it both exciting and dangerous to study. For more than a century, it remained a curiosity in chemistry labs and a minor industrial element, used in small applications like ceramics or as a mood-stabilizing drug in psychiatry. But hidden within its atomic structure was a unique gift. Lithium ions are small and highly mobile, capable of moving in and out of host materials with ease. That property, though unnoticed for generations, would one day transform the world. By the late 20th century, the world was hungry for portable power. Transistor radios, cassette players, camcorders, early laptops all demanded batteries that were lighter and lasted longer than bulky lead-acid or nickel-cadmium cells. The stage was set for lithium to step into the spotlight. In the 1972nd, Stanley Whittingham, working at Exxon, created the first lithium battery prototype. In the 1982nd, John B. Goodenough discovered cobalt oxide cathodes that dramatically increased performance. And in the late 1982nd, Akira Yoshino built a safe, rechargeable version using carbon anodes. By 1991, Sony released the first commercial lithium-ion battery, and the world changed forever. From that moment, the lithium battery became not just a tool of convenience, but a foundation of modern civilization. Like every transformative technology, lithium batteries came with promises of progress. They allowed mobile phones to shrink, laptops to spread, and portable cameras to flourish. They enabled electric cars to emerge from science fiction into reality. They gave renewable energy the crucial ability to store intermittent power. But as production scaled, so too did the costs. Lithium mining operations spread across South America's salt flats, consuming immense amounts of water in some of the driest places on Earth. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, cobalt mines feeding the lithium battery supply chain became infamous for child labor and unsafe conditions. Recycling remained limited, leaving mountains of discarded batteries leaking toxins. The miracle was clear: billions of people connected, millions of cars electrified, gigawatts of clean energy stored. But the disaster was equally clear: scarred landscapes, poisoned water, social exploitation, and a growing mountain of e-waste. We stand at a critical crossroad. The world is accelerating toward a future powered by batteries. Global demand for lithium is projected to multiply several times over in the coming decades as nations commit to carbon neutrality. Factories are springing up in China, the U.S., and Europe to build gigafactories of lithium cells. Trillions of dollars are at stake. Yet if we fail to address the environmental and ethical costs, we risk solving one crisis, fossil fuel dependency, only by creating another ecological devastation and human exploitation. The story of lithium batteries is not just about chemistry, it is about human choices. It is about whether humanity can learn to innovate responsibly or whether we repeat the mistakes of the past, trading one addiction for another. Lithium was first discovered in 1817 by the young Swedish chemist Johann August Arfvedson. While analyzing a mineral called petalite from a mine on the Swedish island of Utö, Arfvedson noticed strange results. The mineral contained a new element, lighter than any metal known at the time. He named it lithium, derived from the Greek word lithos, meaning stone. Because unlike other alkali metals such as potassium and sodium, this element was found not in plants or biological matter, but in minerals of the earth. From the very beginning, lithium stood apart. While sodium and potassium had already been known to flame brightly in chemical reactions, lithium's unique behavior intrigued scientists. It was astonishingly light, so light that a bar of lithium metal could float on oil, and it was reactive, bursting into flame when exposed to water or air. Its very volatility made it both fascinating and dangerous. For much of the 19th century, lithium remained a scientific curiosity. Chemists studied it, cataloged its properties, and experimented with its compounds. Yet there seemed little practical use for it. Unlike iron, copper, or even sodium salts, lithium did not find its way into daily life. It existed in the margins of chemistry, a promising element without a role. By the late 19th century, small-scale industrial applications began to emerge. Lithium compounds were used in the production of glass and ceramics, where they improved resistance to heat. Lithium greases were developed as lubricants that could withstand extreme temperatures, but one of the most unexpected uses came in medicine. In the mid-20th century, doctors began prescribing lithium salts to treat mood disorders, particularly bipolar disorder. This discovery transformed psychiatry. Lithium carbonate became one of the first effective treatments for stabilizing extreme mood swings, earning the element a reputation as a mood metal. Even today, lithium remains a cornerstone drug in mental health treatment, saving countless lives from the ravages of severe depression and mania. This duality, an industrial aid on one hand and a psychiatric medicine on the other, hinted at the versatility that lithium would later fully reveal. To understand why lithium eventually became the cornerstone of modern batteries, one must look at its atomic structure. Lithium is the third element on the periodic table, with just 3 protons in its nucleus and 3 electrons orbiting them. Its outermost electron is held very loosely, making it eager to escape and participate in chemical reactions. This property gives lithium 2 extraordinary advantages for energy storage. Lightness. As the lightest solid element, lithium allows batteries to pack energy without adding heavy mass. Mobility of ions. Lithium ions are extremely small, slipping easily into and out of host materials. This makes them ideal for reversible reactions, the basis of rechargeable batteries. For decades, these qualities were known only in theory. But as the demand for portable energy grew in the 20th century, scientists began to revisit lithium with new eyes. The mid-20th century brought lithium into an entirely different spotlight. Nuclear research. Lithium-6, an isotope of the element, played a key role in the development of hydrogen bombs. Its ability to produce tritium under neutron bombardment made it an essential fuel for thermonuclear weapons. Thus, lithium's history took a dramatic turn. An element once seen as a curiosity of stone was now tied to the most destructive technology humanity had ever created. The same mobility of lithium's atoms that would one day power laptops and cars was first harnessed for weapons of mass destruction. But not all uses of lithium in the atomic age were destructive. Lithium fluoride and lithium hydroxide found roles in nuclear reactors, absorbing heat and controlling chemical balances. Submarines used lithium hydroxide to scrub carbon dioxide from air, allowing sailors to breathe underwater for extended periods. These applications hinted again at the dual nature of lithium: dangerous and life-giving, destructive and protective, miraculous and threatening. By the 1962nd, as consumer electronics began to expand, scientists started considering lithium as a candidate for high-performance batteries. Early experiments showed promise. Lithium's lightweight and reactive nature suggested it could produce high-voltage cells with long lifespans. However, there was a problem. Pure lithium metal was dangerously unstable as an anode. Batteries built with it often overheated or exploded. For years, this instability kept lithium batteries from advancing beyond laboratory prototypes. Still, the promise was too great to ignore. As researchers in Exxon, Oxford, and Japanese laboratories would soon show, the solution lay not in abandoning lithium, but in taming it, harnessing its power through safer compounds and innovative design. This would be the beginning of a technological revolution. But before that revolution, lithium had to move from being a minor industrial metal to becoming the centerpiece of global resource competition. Geologically, lithium is not rare. It is scattered across the earth in minerals and brines, from the deserts of Chile and Bolivia to the salt lakes of China and Nevada. But extracting it is resource-intensive. Lithium often lies locked within vast salt flats, requiring enormous amounts of water to pump out and concentrate. By the mid-20th century, countries like Chile and Argentina began exploring lithium production, though at the time, demand remained limited. Only with the advent of lithium batteries decades later would these regions become the so-called lithium triangle, home to the world's richest reserves and the stage for future geopolitical battles. By the time the 20th century closed, lithium had transformed from a chemical curiosity into a multifaceted industrial resource. It was in glass, ceramics, greases, psychiatric drugs, nuclear reactors, and even weapons. But its greatest destiny remained on the horizon. The stage was set. Humanity had discovered an element that was light, mobile, and full of energy potential. The world was about to enter the era of lithium batteries, where the properties that once made lithium dangerous curiosities would make it the heart of the digital age. By the 1962nd and 1972nd, humanity was facing a new kind of energy challenge. The world had entered the age of electronics. Radios, cassette players, portable cameras, and eventually laptops were reshaping modern life. But powering these devices remained a frustrating problem. Lead-acid batteries were far too heavy for anything but cars. Nickel-cadmium batteries worked, but they were bulky, toxic, and prone to memory effect, which reduced their performance over time. The world needed something new, something lighter, longer-lasting, and rechargeable. This hunger for portable power created an opening for an element long known but little used: lithium. The first great step came from Stanley Whittingham, a British chemist working at Exxon in the early 1972nd. At the time, Exxon was not only an oil company, but also experimenting in alternative energy research, perhaps sensing the energy transitions ahead. Whittingham discovered that titanium disulfide, Ti-S2, could host lithium ions between its layers. He designed a battery where lithium metal served as the anode, negative electrode, and titanium disulfide as the cathode, positive electrode. The result was a rechargeable lithium battery with a surprisingly high energy density. For the first time, the unique properties of lithium ions were being harnessed for practical energy storage. But there was a fatal flaw: safety. Lithium metal is highly reactive. During charging, it formed needle-like deposits called dendrites that could pierce the separator, cause short circuits, and lead to fires or explosions. Exxon quickly abandoned the project. Yet Whittingham's pioneering design proved that lithium batteries were possible. It was the spark that ignited the revolution. If Whittingham lit the spark, it was John B. Goodenough, an American physicist at the University of Oxford, who fanned it into flame. In the early 1982nd, Goodenough built on Whittingham's ideas. He reasoned that if transition metal oxides were used instead of sulfides, they might offer higher voltages and better stability. His team experimented with lithium cobalt oxide, Li-Cu2, and discovered that it could serve as an excellent cathode material. The breakthrough was astonishing. Goodenough's design delivered voltages above 4 volts, nearly double what Whittingham's system had achieved. This quadrupled the energy density compared to earlier batteries. Goodenough's cathode material became the foundation of modern lithium-ion batteries. Without it, smartphones, laptops, and electric cars would never have been possible. The final piece of the puzzle came from Akira Yoshino, a Japanese chemist working for Asahi Kasei Corporation. By the mid-1982nd, the promise of lithium batteries was clear, but the danger of using pure lithium metal remained unsolved. Yoshino's breakthrough was to replace lithium metal with petroleum coke, a carbon-based material, as the anode. This allowed lithium ions to intercalate safely into the carbon structure during charging and discharging, avoiding the dangerous dendrite problem. Yoshino built the first practical and safe rechargeable lithium-ion battery. It was lighter, more stable, and had a long cycle life. Importantly, it was safe enough to be mass-produced. This was the missing link that turned laboratory curiosity into consumer-ready technology. The 1982nd closed with all the scientific pieces in place. But one crucial question remained. Would any company take the risk of mass-producing such a new and untested technology? The answer came from Sony, the Japanese electronics giant. In 1991, Sony introduced the first commercial lithium-ion battery designed for its handheld video cameras. The gamble paid off spectacularly. Consumers loved the longer battery life and lighter weight. Other electronics companies quickly adopted the new batteries. Within a decade, lithium-ion batteries had become the standard power source for portable electronics worldwide. The age of Walkmans, camcorders, laptops, and eventually mobile phones was built upon Sony's bold move. Thus, the modern lithium-ion battery was born through the combined genius of three men: Stanley Whittingham, who conceived the first rechargeable lithium battery, Exxon 1972; John B. Goodenough, who discovered the high-voltage lithium cobalt oxide cathode, Oxford 1982; Akira Yoshino, who created the first safe, practical lithium-ion battery with carbon anodes, Japan 1982. Together, their contributions formed the foundation of the technology that powers the modern world. For decades, their work quietly shaped civilization. Billions of devices and millions of vehicles depended on their discoveries. Finally, in 2019, the three pioneers were awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. The Nobel Committee praised them for creating a technology that had revolutionized our lives and was laying the foundation for a fossil fuel-free society. It was a rare recognition of how chemistry can reshape not just science, but the destiny of humanity. Once lithium-ion batteries entered mass production, the world changed at lightning speed. By the late 1992, laptops became mainstream. By the 2002, mobile phones shrank and spread globally. By the 2010, electric cars and renewable energy storage were transforming the energy landscape. None of this would have been possible without the inventions of Whittingham, Goodenough, Yoshino, and Sony's daring decision to commercialize their work. But with success came new pressures. Demand for lithium skyrocketed. Mining expanded across the globe. The seeds of the environmental challenges we face today were planted in those years of rapid adoption. When Sony released its first lithium-ion battery in 1991, few outside the scientific community grasped the significance. To most consumers, it was simply a camcorder that ran longer between charges. Yet behind the scenes, a silent revolution was beginning. The compact, lightweight, and rechargeable lithium-ion cell had no equal. Within a few years, manufacturers realized they could design smaller, sleeker, and more powerful devices. Lithium batteries became the unseen heartbeat of the digital age, the tiny reservoirs of energy that made portable computing and later global connectivity possible. This was not just a scientific story, but a cultural one. Lithium batteries did not remain confined to laboratories or factories. They seeped into the fabric of human life, reshaping how we work, communicate, and even think. In the early 1992, Sony's Walkman and Handycam were more than gadgets. They were cultural icons. Teenagers carried music in their pockets. Families recorded vacations, and artists experimented with portable video in ways that redefined storytelling. Lithium-ion batteries gave these devices longer lifespans and lighter form factors. No longer tethered to wall sockets or burdened by bulky nickel-cadmium packs, consumers could carry their worlds with them. The concept of true mobility technology that moved with the user was born. What started with music and memories would soon expand into work, communication, and global commerce. By the mid-1992, laptops were still niche products, expensive and limited in power. Early models often ran on heavy nickel metal hydride batteries, offering barely an hour of use. The arrival of lithium-ion changed everything. Suddenly, laptops could last for several hours, weigh less, and become practical tools for students, business people, and eventually the average household. By the early 2000s, laptops were no longer luxury items but essential machines. Entire industries were reshaped. Remote work, once unimaginable, became possible. Digital nomads armed with lithium-powered laptops began working from coffee shops, airplanes, and hotel lobbies. The boundary between home and office blurred. The portable workplace had arrived. If laptops unchained work, cell phones unchained communication. In the 1992nd, mobile phones were clunky, expensive, and limited to short calls. Their lead-acid or nickel-based batteries were heavy and drained quickly. Lithium-ion batteries transformed them into something new, sleek, pocket-sized devices with enough endurance to handle daily use. By the early 2002, cell phones were spreading across the globe. In developing nations, they leapfrogged landline infrastructure, connecting millions for the first time. By the late 2002, with the arrival of smartphones, lithium batteries were no longer just conveniences, they were lifelines. A farmer in Kenya could check crop prices via text message. A migrant worker in Manila could send money to her family with a tap. A teenager in New York could stream music, text friends, and browse the internet all on a single charge. Lithium batteries had quietly democratized communication, flattening distances and accelerating globalization. The year 2007 marked a watershed, the release of Apple's iPhone. It wasn't just a phone, it was a computer in the palm of your hand, and at its core was a lithium-ion battery. Without the power density and rechargeability of lithium, smartphones would have remained science fiction. Instead, they became the center of modern life. Social media, navigation, mobile banking, streaming, photography, all were enabled by the hidden energy of lithium batteries. The smartphone era did not just reshape technology, it reshaped humanity. People began living online, tethered not by wires, but by invisible currents of lithium power. A dead battery became a modern emergency, a source of anxiety that underscored how dependent society had become on this invisible technology. As the 2010 second unfolded, lithium-ion extended its reach. Tablets brought entertainment and work into hybrid spaces. Wearables like smartwatches and fitness trackers offered constant health monitoring. Wireless earbuds, powered by tiny lithium cells, became ubiquitous. Each new form factor demanded innovation in battery miniaturization, efficiency, and charging. Engineers responded with thinner, more flexible designs, squeezing ever more energy into ever smaller spaces. The result was an ecosystem of devices that blurred the boundary between human and machine. Our digital tools became extensions of ourselves, each one pulsing with lithium energy. Lithium batteries did not just power gadgets, they powered movements. Protesters in the Arab Spring 2011 coordinated via lithium-powered smartphones. Students in remote villages accessed online education. Musicians and artists created and distributed work globally from laptops and phones. Global commerce shifted to e-commerce platforms driven by mobile devices. The cultural shift was profound. Humanity had moved from fixed, location-bound technology to a world of constant mobility, and the silent enabler of it all was the lithium battery. As reliance on portable electronics grew, so did the infrastructure to support them: charging cables, power banks, and later, wireless charging pads became everyday accessories. Airports, cafes, and libraries installed outlets and charging stations. Entire industries sprang up around extending battery life, fast chargers, external packs, and software optimizations. The fact that the world had to reorganize around the needs of lithium batteries highlighted just how central they had become. Yet even as lithium batteries fueled unprecedented innovation, cracks began to show. Consumers noticed devices degrading after years of use, batteries swelling, or even catching fire. Incidents like the Samsung Galaxy Note 7 fires, 2016, reminded the world of lithium's volatility. At the same time, environmentalists began sounding alarms. The surge in lithium demand drove mining expansion, often with devastating ecological and social consequences. What seemed like a clean, modern technology carried costs that were only beginning to surface. By the end of the 2010 decade, the digital revolution was complete. Billions of people live their lives through devices powered by lithium-ion batteries. Work, communication, art, politics, and culture all were shaped by the invisible current stored in these tiny cells. The miracle was undeniable. Lithium batteries had given humanity mobility, connectivity, and unprecedented freedom. But the question lingered: at what cost? By the late 1992 and early 2002, lithium-ion batteries were already powering the digital revolution: laptops, phones, cameras, and music players. But visionaries began asking a bigger question. Could lithium batteries power not just our gadgets, but our cars? The idea was not entirely new. Electric vehicles, EVs, had existed in crude form since the 19th century, and early 20th century cities even saw electric taxis on the streets. Yet the dominance of cheap gasoline, combined with the limitations of lead-acid batteries, pushed EVs into obscurity for most of the 20th century. Now, with lithium's high energy density and rechargeability, the dream of reviving the electric car was reborn, and with it came a powerful promise, a way to break humanity's dependence on oil. The timing was crucial. By the late 20th century, the dangers of fossil fuels were undeniable. Climate change, urban air pollution, and volatile oil prices pushed governments, industries, and consumers to search for alternatives. Lithium-ion batteries seemed to offer a solution. With them, cars could run without burning gasoline or diesel. Entire nations saw EVs as a pathway to cleaner cities and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. Lithium batteries, once seen as enablers of consumer convenience, were suddenly cast as saviors of the planet. No story of lithium batteries in transportation can be told without Tesla. Founded in 2003, Tesla was a bold gamble in an industry dominated by giants. Its mission: to prove that electric cars could be not only sustainable but also desirable. The company's early models used thousands of small lithium-ion cells, similar to those in laptops, wired together to create powerful battery packs. In 2008, Tesla released the Roadster, a sleek sports car that shattered stereotypes about EVs being slow or unattractive. The Roadster could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds, all powered by lithium batteries. Tesla's success sparked a revolution. Established automakers, once dismissive of EVs, began pouring resources into their own electric models. Governments introduced incentives, subsidies, and mandates. Investors saw the future unfolding in lithium. As demand surged, so too did the need for massive production capacity. Tesla, in partnership with Panasonic, announced the creation of gigafactories, enormous plants designed to produce batteries at unprecedented scales. The very term gigafactory became symbolic of the new era. Humanity was no longer tinkering with portable batteries, but building the infrastructure for a global energy shift. China, Europe, and the United States all raced to build similar facilities. The scale was staggering. Each gigafactory required billions of dollars of investment, tens of thousands of workers, and supply chains that spanned continents. Lithium had officially become a cornerstone of geopolitics. Around the world, governments began tying their climate policies to electric vehicles. Norway set aggressive targets, aiming to phase out internal combustion engine (ICE) cars entirely by 2025. The European Union announced bans on new gasoline and diesel car sales in the coming decades. China, the largest auto market in the world, poured subsidies into EV production, turning companies like BYD into global leaders. The United States introduced tax credits, fuel economy standards, and state-level mandates. Each of these moves increased pressure on lithium supply chains and accelerated research into battery improvements. To advocates, electric cars symbolized more than technology. They represented hope, cleaner cities, no tailpipe emissions, reducing smog and air pollution. Energy independence, reduced reliance on oil imports and volatile fossil fuel markets. Climate action, lower greenhouse gas emissions, especially when paired with renewable energy. Innovation and jobs, a new industry creating millions of jobs worldwide. Lithium batteries were no longer just energy storage devices. They had become political symbols, economic drivers, and environmental lifelines. Yet the story was never that simple. Critics raised serious questions. Carbon footprint of production. Building lithium batteries is energy intensive, and much of the process still relies on fossil fuels. Mining concerns. Extracting lithium, cobalt, and nickel comes at enormous environmental and social costs. Recycling gap. Few large-scale systems exist to recycle EV batteries, leading to fears of future waste crises. Infrastructure. Charging networks remain uneven, particularly in rural areas and developing nations. Equity. EVs, often expensive, risk being accessible mainly to wealthy consumers. The green promise of EVs thus coexists with deep ethical and environmental dilemmas. Despite the doubts, the cultural shift has been undeniable. Owning an electric car has become, in many places, a status symbol of environmental awareness and technological modernity. Tesla, in particular, transformed itself from a niche automaker into one of the world's most valuable companies, fueled as much by cultural cachet as by engineering. Celebrities, politicians, and influencers showcase their EVs as part of a lifestyle brand centered on sustainability. For a generation of young people, the dream car was no longer a roaring V8, but a silent, sleek EV gliding on lithium power. As of the 2022, electric vehicles are still a small fraction of the global fleet, but their growth is exponential. Analysts predict that by the 2032, EVs will dominate new car sales in many markets. The lithium-ion battery, once an obscure laboratory experiment, has become the engine of the automotive future. Yet the paradox remains. Are we truly moving towards sustainability, or simply shifting environmental costs from one place to another? Are lithium batteries delivering salvation, or laying the groundwork for new ecological disasters? Electric vehicles embody the promise and peril of lithium technology. They hold the potential to slash emissions, clean the air, and transform economies. Yet they also expose humanity to new vulnerabilities, supply chain monopolies, environmental destruction, and questions of equity. The miracle is real, but so is the shadow it casts. When Sony first commercialized lithium-ion batteries in 1991, lithium was still a relatively obscure element. Global demand was modest, and mining operations in Chile, Argentina, and a few other places were small-scale. By the early 2000s, lithium production was measured in mere thousands of tons, enough to satisfy industries like ceramics, lubricants, and pharmaceuticals. But the explosion of portable electronics and later electric vehicles transformed lithium into one of the most coveted resources of the 21st century. Governments, corporations, and investors began speaking of it as white gold. This transformation marked the beginning of the global lithium rush, a race to secure supplies of the element that would power not just phones and laptops, but entire economies. At the heart of this rush lies the Lithium Triangle, a region spanning northern Chile, northwestern Argentina, and southwestern Bolivia. Beneath its vast salt flats, particularly Chile's Salar de Atacama and Bolivia's Salar de Uyuni, lie more than half of the world's known lithium reserves. The extraction process here is deceptively simple in appearance. Brine rich in lithium is pumped from underground aquifers into vast evaporation ponds where the sun concentrates the salts over months. The concentrated brine is then processed to extract lithium carbonate, the raw material for batteries. Water usage. Extracting lithium consumes massive amounts of water, up to 500,000 gallons per ton. In the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth, this drains fragile ecosystems. Indigenous communities. Local communities, often indigenous, rely on the same aquifers for survival. Lithium extraction threatens their agriculture, livestock, and cultural traditions. Ecosystem damage. Flamingos, unique plants, and fragile desert biomes suffer as water levels drop and chemical waste accumulates. What was once a pristine landscape has become checkerboarded with bright blue evaporation ponds visible even from space, stark symbols of the price of the green revolution. While South America dominates lithium brine, Australia leads in hard rock mining. Spodumene, a lithium-bearing mineral, is extracted through traditional open-pit mining. Unlike the slow evaporation ponds of the lithium triangle, Australian mines produce lithium faster but at higher energy costs. Australia has become the largest producer of lithium in recent years, shipping vast quantities to China for processing. The environmental issues here are different but equally significant. Habitat destruction, high carbon emissions from mining operations, and tensions over land use. If South America and Australia are the suppliers, China is the refiner and manufacturer. Over the past 2 decades, China has invested heavily in every stage of the lithium supply chain. It controls 60% of global lithium refining capacity. It dominates the production of cathodes, anodes, and battery cells. Companies like CATL and BYD have become world leaders in battery technology. China's strategy has been deliberate: secure raw materials globally, build refining capacity domestically, and export finished batteries and electric vehicles. The result is a near monopoly that leaves other nations scrambling to catch up. Among the Lithium Triangle nations, Bolivia stands out. Home to the world's largest salt flat, the Salar de Uyuni, Bolivia holds immense reserves but has struggled to develop them. Bolivian governments, especially under Evo Morales, pursued a policy of resource nationalism seeking to keep lithium profits within the country. However, lack of infrastructure, technology, and investment slowed progress. Bolivia's story reflects a broader dilemma. How can rich but economically disadvantaged nations benefit from the lithium boom without being exploited by foreign corporations? For decades, the U.S. and Europe relied on foreign lithium supplies. But as the EV revolution accelerated, both regions began investing heavily in domestic mining and refining. In the U.S., projects in Nevada, like the Thacker Pass mine, promise to expand production, though they face fierce opposition from environmentalists and indigenous groups. Europe has identified lithium reserves in countries like Portugal and Serbia, but protests over environmental concerns have stalled projects. The tension is clear. Societies demand cleaner technologies, but local communities resist the destructive mining required to supply them. Lithium is only part of the story. Modern batteries also rely on cobalt, nickel, and manganese. Among these, cobalt has drawn particular scrutiny because much of it is mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo, often under horrific conditions involving child labor and unsafe practices. The global battery rush is not just about lithium, it is about entire supply chains riddled with ethical and ecological challenges. As with oil in the 20th century, lithium has become a strategic resource that shapes geopolitics. Nations are maneuvering to secure supplies. China invests aggressively in mines from Africa to South America. The U.S. labels lithium a critical mineral, prioritizing domestic production. Europe pushes for strategic autonomy in batteries, reducing dependence on China. South American nations consider forming a lithium OPEC to control prices and assert sovereignty. Control of lithium is no longer just an economic matter. It is a matter of national security. Behind the scramble lies a haunting question. Can the world sustain exponential growth in lithium demand? Analysts predict that by 2030, demand could increase 5 to 10-fold. Yet lithium reserves are finite, extraction is destructive, and recycling remains limited. The white gold rush risks replicating the same boom and bust cycles of oil, complete with geopolitical conflicts, environmental devastation, and social upheaval. The lithium rush embodies the paradox of our age. On one hand, it powers the transition to a cleaner, greener future. On the other, it threatens new forms of exploitation and ecological collapse. Nations, corporations, and communities are all entangled in this race. And at its heart lies the same question. Will lithium liberate us from fossil fuels, or will it enslave us to yet another cycle of extraction and inequality? From the outside, lithium batteries look like miracles. They power sleek electric cars with no exhaust, store renewable energy for nights and cloudy days, and run our phones and laptops without a whiff of gasoline or coal. Politicians and corporations alike promote them as the cornerstone of a clean energy future. But the deeper one digs into the supply chain, the more fragile that image becomes. Beneath the gleaming surfaces of EVs and smartphones lies a murkier reality, one of dried-up lakes, poisoned rivers, scarred landscapes, and exploited workers. Lithium batteries may reduce tailpipe emissions, but they carry their own hidden toll. Lithium extraction from brine is especially water-intensive. In Chile's Atacama Desert, already one of the driest regions on Earth, mining companies pump millions of liters of water daily to bring brine to the surface. This has catastrophic consequences. Aquifer depletion. Groundwater levels drop, threatening communities and ecosystems. Biodiversity collapse. Flamingo populations, dependent on brine shrimp in salt flats, decline as habitats shrink. Indigenous livelihoods. Local peoples who rely on limited water for farming and herding face existential threats. The bitter irony is clear. In order to build green technologies that fight climate change, we are draining and destroying fragile water ecosystems elsewhere. Lithium mining and refining also produce toxic byproducts. Chemicals like hydrochloric acid are used in processing, and spills or leaks contaminate soils and rivers. In hard rock mining regions such as Australia, massive pits, scar landscapes, and waste rock piles leach chemicals. Transporting lithium across continents leaves additional carbon footprints, challenging the idea of true sustainability. And when batteries reach the end of their life, only about 5% of lithium-ion batteries are recycled globally. Most end up in landfills, where they risk leaking heavy metals or catching fire. The promise of a circular battery economy remains largely unrealized. Lithium is only part of the battery equation. Cathodes in many lithium-ion batteries require cobalt, and more than 60% of the world's supply comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. Reports from the DRC reveal harrowing conditions: child labor. Thousands of children dig for cobalt in dangerous artisanal mines. Unsafe conditions, collapses, exposure to toxic dust, and lack of protective equipment are common. Exploitation. Local workers earn meager wages while multinational corporations profit from global demand. Every time a consumer buys a phone or EV, they may unknowingly contribute to this chain of exploitation. While EVs produce fewer emissions when driven, the production of lithium batteries is highly carbon intensive. Mining, transporting, refining, and manufacturing require vast amounts of energy, much of it still generated from fossil fuels. Studies show that the carbon footprint of making an EV battery can offset years of emission savings compared to conventional cars. The true benefits of EVs only emerge if they are powered by clean energy grids and recycled effectively, a condition far from reality in many countries. The human cost of lithium extraction is often hidden far from the consumers who benefit. In the Atacama, indigenous communities protest as their lands dry up. In Nevada, Native American tribes oppose projects like Thacker Pass, arguing that sacred sites are being desecrated. In Serbia, protests erupted against proposed lithium mines that threatened farmland and water. These communities ask a painful question: why must they bear the costs of green progress that benefits wealthier nations and corporations? The lithium boom also reflects global inequities. Resource-rich nations often export raw materials, while wealthier nations control refining, manufacturing, and profits. South America produces much of the world's lithium, but most of the value is captured in factories in China, Japan, and South Korea. This dynamic mirrors the colonial patterns of the past, where raw resources were extracted from the global South for the benefit of the global North. Even after production, lithium batteries pose risks. Their volatility can lead to fires or explosions, as seen in incidents with smartphones, laptops, and even EVs. Airplanes ban certain lithium batteries from cargo holds due to fire risks. Recycling facilities have reported dangerous fires sparked by improperly discarded cells. These risks underscore the fragile balance between power and danger that lithium technology embodies. Perhaps the deepest hidden cost is philosophical. The global push for lithium assumes endless growth: more cars, more devices, more consumption, just powered by different energy sources. Yet the planet has finite resources. Even if lithium could replace oil, the cycle of extraction, consumption, and waste would continue. Without a cultural shift towards sustainability, lithium may simply be a new chapter in the same old story of ecological overshoot. Lithium batteries shine with the promise of a cleaner, greener world. Yet their hidden costs, water depletion, toxic waste, labor exploitation, carbon emissions, and social injustices cast long shadows. The question then is not only whether lithium batteries are a miracle or disaster, but whether humanity can confront these hidden costs honestly and build solutions before it is too late. As awareness of lithium's environmental and social costs grows, so too does the urgency for innovation. The 21st century has seen a surge of investment into next-generation energy storage technologies. Scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs all recognize that while lithium-ion batteries have transformed the world, they are not perfect. The race is now on for alternatives, systems that are safer, greener, cheaper, and capable of powering humanity's expanding technological ambitions. One of the most talked about innovations is the solid-state battery. Unlike conventional lithium-ion batteries, which use liquid electrolytes, solid-state batteries use solid electrolytes. This change offers several potential advantages: higher energy density, more energy stored in the same volume, improved safety, non-flammable liquid, reducing fire risks, longer lifespan, fewer problems with dendrite growth. Companies like Toyota, QuantumScape, and Samsung are investing billions into solid-state research. Toyota has announced ambitious plans to introduce solid-state EVs within the decade, though challenges remain in scaling up production and ensuring durability. If successful, solid-state batteries could extend EV ranges, shrink charging times, and revolutionize electronics once again. Another promising contender is the sodium-ion battery. Sodium, unlike lithium, is abundant and widely distributed across the globe, found in ordinary salt. Sodium-ion batteries work similarly to lithium-ion systems, but use sodium ions instead. Advantages include resource abundance, no geopolitical chokeholds like lithium, lower cost. Sodium is cheaper to source and process. Safety, Sodium cells are less prone to overheating. The trade-off: sodium batteries currently have lower energy density than lithium, making them less ideal for high-performance EVs. But for grid storage and low-cost applications, they could be game changers. Chinese company CATL unveiled sodium-ion batteries in 2021, and they are expected to play a larger role in renewable energy storage. Perhaps the most urgent innovation is not a new chemistry, but a new system: recycling. Today, less than 10% of lithium batteries are recycled effectively. The rest are discarded, creating toxic waste and wasting valuable materials like cobalt and nickel. New technologies aim to change this. Hydrometallurgical recycling, using chemicals to extract lithium, cobalt, and nickel from used batteries. Direct recycling, preserving cathode materials for reuse without breaking them down completely. Urban mining, treating discarded electronics as ore richer than natural deposits. Companies like Redwood Materials, founded by Tesla co-founder J.B. Straubel, and Li-Cycle are building large recycling facilities. Governments in the EU and US are pushing regulations to ensure circularity. Recycling could reduce dependence on destructive mining, cut emissions, and create a more sustainable battery economy. While lithium dominates today, other chemistries are being explored. Lithium iron phosphate, LFP, cheaper, safer, and longer, lasting, though with lower energy density, widely used in Chinese EVs. Lithium sulfur batteries, potentially higher energy density and lower cost, but plagued by short lifespans. Magnesium and aluminum batteries, abundant and potentially safer, though still early in research. Zinc air and flow batteries, promising for grid-scale storage, though less suited for mobility. Each of these represents not just a technical shift, but a strategic one, diversifying humanity's reliance away from a single element. While not batteries in the traditional sense, hydrogen fuel cells represent another alternative. They generate electricity by combining hydrogen and oxygen, producing only water vapor as a byproduct. Fuel cells promise fast refueling and long ranges, making them attractive for heavy vehicles, ships, and planes. However, challenges include hydrogen production, often still fossil fuel-based, infrastructure costs, and storage difficulties. Some experts argue that hydrogen will complement, not replace, batteries serving niches where batteries struggle. Innovation is not only about the chemistry of batteries, but also about how they are used. Smart grids and advanced energy management systems are being developed to optimize storage, reduce waste, and balance supply and demand. For example, homes with solar panels and battery storage can feed excess energy back into the grid. EVs can serve as mobile batteries, discharging energy during peak demand. AI-driven systems can predict usage patterns and maximize efficiency. These innovations expand the impact of batteries from individual devices to entire energy ecosystems. Beyond corporate labs and government programs, grassroots efforts are reshaping battery technology. In rural Africa and Asia, small-scale solar kits with lithium or alternative batteries provide electricity to off-grid communities. Entrepreneurs are experimenting with low-cost recycling and second-life applications, giving EV batteries a new role in powering homes or businesses once their vehicle capacity declines. Such innovations highlight that the future of energy is not only about cutting-edge breakthroughs, but also about accessibility, equity, and practical solutions for billions of people. The quest for better batteries is ultimately a quest for balance. Higher performance with lower costs, abundant resources without exploitation, clean energy without hidden destruction. While no single innovation will solve all problems, the combined momentum of solid-state advances, sodium-ion breakthroughs, improved recycling, and smarter systems may redefine the energy landscape within decades. Lithium-ion batteries may be the defining technology of today, but they are not the end of the story. Human ingenuity continues to push forward, searching for alternatives that reduce environmental harm and extend access to sustainable energy. The miracle of portable power need not come with disaster if we dare to innovate responsibly. When people hold a smartphone, slip on wireless earbuds, or step into an electric car, they rarely pause to consider the hands that made it possible. The lithium battery is seen as a symbol of progress, innovation, and clean energy. Yet behind every polished device lies a human chain of labor, sacrifice, and often suffering. This chapter explores that hidden dimension: the miners who dig lithium from deserts and mountains, the factory workers who assemble cells under intense pressure, and the communities whose lands and waters are transformed to power someone else's convenience. The Atacama Desert, Chile, Argentina, Bolivia. In South America's Lithium Triangle, indigenous communities like the Atacameño and Quichua find their ancestral lands transformed. The shimmering salt flats that once provided livelihoods through tourism and small-scale farming now bear vast evaporation ponds. Mining companies arrive with promises of jobs and development. Yet for many locals, the reality is different: loss of water, wells and streams that sustain crops, and llamas dry up. Cultural erosion. Sacred landscapes are industrialized, eroding traditions and spiritual connections to land. Unequal benefits. Profits flow to multinational corporations in distant capitals, while locals see little improvement in living standards. Though cobalt is not lithium, it is integral to many lithium-ion batteries, and its human cost is among the most shocking. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, thousands of artisanal miners, including children, descend into unstable pits with hand tools to extract cobalt. For these miners, daily wages may be less than a few dollars. Risks include mine collapses, toxic dust, and long-term lung damage. Exploitation is rampant, with middlemen and corporations profiting disproportionately. This human suffering is embedded in devices advertised as green and ethical. Lithium batteries are assembled in vast factories, many in China, South Korea, and increasingly in Europe and North America. Workers in these plants face repetitive, high-pressure labor, long shifts assembling delicate cells with precision, chemical exposure, handling electrolytes and solvents that can be harmful if safety standards slip, surveillance and discipline, strict oversight, little room for error, and limited worker rights. For consumers, the battery is invisible. For workers, it is the center of their lives, often with little recognition or reward. The human cost is not confined to miners and workers. Communities near proposed lithium mines frequently face conflicts. In Nevada, USA, the planned Thacker Pass lithium mine faces protests from Native American tribes who view the land as sacred and worry about water pollution. In Portugal and Serbia, farmers have rallied against lithium projects that threaten agriculture and local ecosystems. Across South America, indigenous activists demand consultation and fair benefits, often clashing with governments and corporations. These struggles raise profound questions. Who decides what sacrifices are acceptable in the name of progress? And who gets to define what green truly means? Ironically, the people who benefit most from lithium batteries, consumers, are often unaware of these human costs. The sleek branding of EVs and smartphones rarely reveals the chain of extraction, labor, and suffering behind them. Consumers face their own dilemmas, moral blindness. Few pause to consider whether their phone or car carries the cost of child labor or poisoned rivers. Dependence. Even when aware, most feel powerless to change, as modern life depends on these devices. Activism. Some push for ethical sourcing, transparency, and recycling, but such movements remain small compared to the scale of demand. The human dimension of lithium batteries poses urgent ethical dilemmas. Is it justifiable to sacrifice indigenous water supplies to power wealthy nations' EVs? Can corporations claim to be sustainable while sourcing from exploitative mines? Should consumers bear responsibility for the hidden costs of their devices? These are not just economic or technological questions, they are moral ones, shaping the future of global justice. Despite the challenges, there are glimmers of hope. Fair trade initiatives aim to certify ethically sourced cobalt and lithium. Community agreements in some regions require companies to share profits and consult locals. Corporate accountability is slowly growing as pressure mounts on brands to disclose supply chains. Consumer awareness is rising, especially among younger generations who demand sustainability. While imperfect, these steps hint at the possibility of a battery economy that values not just technology, but people. Lithium batteries are not just cells of chemistry, they are cells of humanity, built on the labor, sacrifice, and resilience of countless individuals. The miners in the Atacama, the children in Congolese pits, the workers in Chinese factories, the farmers resisting mines in Europe, all are part of the story. The true cost of lithium batteries cannot be measured only in dollars or carbon. It must also be measured in human lives. Lithium batteries? A technological miracle or an environmental disaster? That question has guided us through the entire story. We have traced lithium from its discovery in 1817 to its rise as the beating heart of the digital revolution, the engine of electric cars, and the keystone of renewable energy storage. We have seen its promise: mobility, connectivity, cleaner cities, and the possibility of a post-oil future. But we have also witnessed its darker side: drying deserts, poisoned rivers, child labor, dangerous factories, and the illusion of green progress built on fragile foundations. So where does the balance lie? From one perspective, lithium batteries are nothing short of miraculous. They enabled global connectivity, making smartphones and laptops indispensable tools for education, business, and culture. They power electric vehicles, giving humanity a fighting chance to slash greenhouse gas emissions. They allow renewable energy storage, making solar and wind power more reliable and scalable. They embody the triumph of scientific creativity, built on the vision of Whittingham, Goodenough, Yoshino, and countless others. In this view, lithium batteries are the bridge to a sustainable future, perhaps even the technology that prevents catastrophic climate collapse. Yet another perspective sees lithium batteries as environmental disasters waiting to unfold. Ecological destruction. Lithium mining devastates fragile ecosystems, draining scarce water and leaving toxic scars. Social injustice. Communities bear the costs while corporations and wealthy nations reap the benefits. Carbon contradictions. Battery production is energy-intensive, raising doubts about true emissions reductions. Finite resources. Demand may outpace supply, leading to new geopolitical conflicts and unsustainable growth. In this view, lithium batteries are not a cure for fossil fuel addiction, but a replacement addiction, one that perpetuates the same cycles of exploitation under a new banner of green. The truth lies in the paradox. Lithium batteries are both miracle and disaster. They are a marvel of chemistry and engineering, yet also symbols of humanity's ongoing struggle to reconcile progress with responsibility. Every EV, every smartphone, every solar farm storage system embodies this paradox. Each is both a step toward a cleaner future and a reminder of costs pushed onto vulnerable people and ecosystems. The question then is not whether lithium batteries are good or bad, but whether we as a society can manage their contradictions. The future of lithium batteries will depend on choices humanity makes in the coming decades. Improved recycling, turning waste into new resources, reducing dependence on destructive mining. Alternative chemistries, solid, state, sodium ion, and other breakthroughs could reduce reliance on scarce toxic materials. Stronger regulations. Protecting workers, indigenous communities, and ecosystems from exploitation. Consumer awareness. Demanding transparency and ethical sourcing from corporations. Cultural change. Moving away from infinite consumption towards sustainable sufficiency. The miracle will endure only if we confront the disaster with innovation, ethics, and humility. So, are lithium batteries a technological miracle or an environmental disaster? The answer is both and neither. They are a mirror reflecting humanity's brilliance and its blindness. They show what we can achieve when science and industry align, but also what we risk when we ignore the costs of our inventions. The story of lithium is still unfolding. Solid-state batteries may soon replace today's cells. Recycling may close the loop, or perhaps new technologies unforeseen today will render lithium obsolete. For now, lithium batteries remain the pulse of the 21st century, quiet, invisible, yet shaping every aspect of our lives. The final verdict belongs not to history, but to the choices we make today and tomorrow. Will we let lithium become a new oil, repeating the mistakes of the past? Or will we transform it into a stepping stone toward true sustainability? The future is still unwritten. The balance is still in our hands. Lithium batteries are not just about energy. They are about humanity's relationship with the earth, with each other, and with our future. They force us to confront the oldest question of progress. What are we willing to sacrifice for the lives we desire? Perhaps in that question lies the real power of lithium, not as a miracle or a disaster, but as a test of whether we can learn, adapt, and choose wisely before the balance tips too far.